Action. Okay, so we're on the Google Docs that Ms. Rosa started.
So we're doing the troubleshooting for the chest tube. So the first question, it states, chest tube is dislodged from patient at insertion site. So what would we do? So in situations like that, you want to go ahead and ask the patient to exhale and cough so that they can get rid of much of the air as possible from the pleural space. And then you want to apply an occlusive dressing, and you want to secure at least 3 sides of it with tape. And then you also want to stay with the patient, and you want to um, call for help, and have another staff member notify the provider. For question number 2, it says chest tube is dislodged / disconnected from drainage system. So you want to again ask the patient to exhale and cough to expel the air from the pleural space, and submerge the end of the chest tube in a 1-inch to 2-inch sterile water until you could actually clean the end tip of the chest tube and then reconnect it to the drainage system, or until you get a new drainage system if it needs to be replaced. And then question number 3, it says dressing is loose or saturated. So of course you want to remove the dressing if it's saturated, and you want to assess it for coca. And then you want to apply a new sterile dressing, and you also want to secure the 3 sides of it with tape. And then you also, if the dressing is saturated, of course you also want to just keep an eye on the new dressing and see if there's any additional drainage still occurring.
And the 3 sides is so that way air doesn't go in, but air can come out, right? Something like that.
I'm sorry?
Because we do just the 3 sides, so that way
Yeah,
the
just the 3 sides.
air can't go in, but it can come out, or something like that. Is that what it was?
So, so the air, wait, hold on. So it's the 3 sides.
Like it won't go in
So,
because like it'll collapse onto the
correct, yeah.
yeah.
So it could exhale, but not come in, right? Yeah, because then you're gonna get the possible tension on your thorax, which is not what you want.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
So doing the subcutaneous emphysema, if it's noted over the chest, beyond the insertion site, we would assess for the patient's vitals. And we have to stay with the patient, have another staff member notify the provider, and then the drainage for the drainage system falls over. Um, you have to grab a new drainage system and clamp the chest tube, but only for a brief time. It takes to reestablish drainage. And then the patient needs to ambulate to the bathroom. We would help ambulate the patient to the bathroom if assistance is needed, while maintaining the drainage system below the insertion site and make sure not to disconnect the patient from the system.
Yeah, we don't want to have that happen. Okay, so then we have titling. So titling is you expect, to have continuous bubbling in the water seal chamber initially, and occasion bubbling, like, when the patient coughs or something after that. But if you see constant bubbling, then there's probably an air leak in the system. So what you want to do is try to determine where the air leak is coming from. Okay, and so then no occasional bubbling in the air leak indicated chamber. What does that mean? It can mean that the lungs are.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if there's like cartoons on and we can't
Okay.
really hear. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so it could be that the lungs have already fully expanded. There's a tubing obstruction. The suction source could not be working, or a dependent loop hangs below the rest of the tubing. So, you just want to check and look out for those to see what's going on with that. And then if you have like a continuous bubbling of the water, the sealed chamber, if you notice that, so what's probably happening again is there's an air leak. So you want to look and try to determine where that's coming from. So it can be like a dislocation at the insertion site or some type of external leak. So you just have to look and find out where it's coming from.
If it's leaking at the dislocation side, isn't that when you get that crepitus or whatever? Or
Mhm.
down here. Yeah, sounds like Rice Krispies. So if the suction chamber is not bubbling, this can indicate that the pressure might be too low, like below 20 cms. And,
Mhm.
and if the suction chamber is bubbling excessively, this can indicate that there's too much water in the chamber, so above that. And this could be due, like Rosa said, makes a lot of sense, maybe because the overfill when you're replacing the water that has been evaporated over time. So you have to
Yeah.
take out some of that. And then the emergency supplies at the bedside that we'd have at the bedside is you would need like the hemostat clamps to clamp down, the tube. Oh, I left that wrong. Okay, yeah. So you'd have to have the hemostat. So you have to have a clear dressing with the tape, so that we can do the 3. And then you'd have to have the sterile water with the container in order to put it the tube in the container if it gets dislodged, and you can clean in between.
Mhm.
I think that's it.
So I think like for that one, so I guess like, one thing that we could probably do is if we know that we have a patient that is going to get a chest tube placed or has one, then we have to make sure that we have the equipment already ready
Already clear. Yeah.
beforehand. Yeah.
Like the other thing.
So
Make sure
we're
that we
not
have-
in that situation.
Yeah, make sure that we already have extra supplies, like with anything, how we take the extra kits, the extra gloves,
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. 'Cause we don't get
I'm
caught
just
in that
starting to
situation.
notice that in clinicals, like all the extra supplies that are supposed to be there, like for the trach
Yeah.
care and all that other stuff, like same thing for this. You always have to be aware of that.
The tubing, that's like one thing that like when I was in med surg in the 5th floor, that's what's like, don't ever be caught without like a trach tube, like if the patient like indicates it for one, and I'm just like, okay. Like she was like telling me like you have to do this no matter whatever you learn from me today. So yeah.
And now
Yeah,
we
your gloves. Like I had the other day when I was doing my gloves and I went to open up my sterile and one of the gloves like flipped over each other. You know, when you pop the paper and then you're like, you gotta make sure you have your extra stuff.
it's true, very true. Okay, I'm gonna stop it.
And then I guess like worst case scenario, in case it does come out, then we as nurses just need to be ready to help assist the doctor in case for the reinsertion or
Oh, that's right.
mhm.
That's something I could add
just,
to it too.
just keep that in mind.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just stay ready and prepared.
And then I think another thing too is if there is an air leakage, knowing where to start the clamping from, like where would we start? So we would start at the insertion site and work our way down.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've learned so much. Should I stop it?
Mhm.
Anything else?